Now to Somalia, where UN officials say the Islamist militant group al-Shabab still poses a threat to peace-building efforts. The al-Qaeda-linked group is not as strong as it was before it was pushed out of major cities, but the militants still control parts of the country.
VOA East Africa correspondent Gabe Joselow recently returned from Somalia, and he talked with Honest Simon's Philip Alexio about the situation in the capital, Mogadishu. Let's take a look.
The security situation has actually gotten a little bit worse. There have been targeted attacks against major United Nations offices, against Western targets, against the Turkish presence there. So it's a much more on edge now and a little bit more concern in the city.
Al-Shabab still controls large areas of the Somali countryside. So do they have enough forces from the African Union mission to get this job done? Has there been any talk about maybe boosting the forces a little bit more since Al-Shabab has been such a problem recently?
Yeah, I think that right now the AU forces that are in Somalia are a bit overstretched because they spent, they were really successful in taking town after town after town that was controlled by Al-Shabab, but now the problem is trying to maintain a presence in those areas. So yeah, the Somali government, the UN are all requesting an increase in troop numbers. They need a few thousand more to try to take over some of the towns that are still under Al-Shabaab's control, which includes the town of Baraway, which is south of Mogadishu. This is the place where US Special Forces conducted an operation trying to catch a pretty senior commander.
And Mogadishu being one of the most dangerous cities in the world, they have been able to build, I guess, street lights, I guess some roads. They're trying to build up buildings and I guess kids are going to school. Is that right?
Yeah, you're starting to see some signs of progress in that direction. Like you said, street lights are going up in the capital. Roads are improving slightly, but really the institutional capacity of the place is still so minimal that these efforts are really, it's just sort of scratching the surface of the needs in the city. Any progress is good progress, and you're seeing a lot of private investment, which is going a long way, more so than the sort of public, investment or public, works that are taking place there.
And how is the President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed, viewed by the people right now?
The main criticism that you hear from people on the streets, from locals mostly, is that he spends too much time abroad, raising money, trying to find partners for Somalia, and isn't really doing enough to control the political situation at home. He also faces a lot of resistance from some of the regional leaders because, places like Jubaland in the south, Somaliland, Puntland in the north, are setting up their own states, and they're still trying to determine how these states will function within a broader federal system.
It's an interesting story, the artist story that you did with focusing on Adan Farah Afi, if I'm saying that properly. But he's now able, I guess after decades, or at least after a good number of years, been able to now showcase his artwork. Tell us a little bit about that story and about him.
Yeah, Afi's an interesting guy. He grew up in Mogadishu. He was raised in a Catholic orphanage, which is where he discovered his talent as a painter, and he was encouraged early on. But then as the war broke out, he really had to take his work underground. Somalia during that time was just basically too dangerous to try to express an opinion or anything like that.
Now, given a chance to express himself, there is no topic Afi is afraid of. This painting shows the terror wrought by the Islamist militant group al-Shabab, represented as a serpentine beard burned into the canvas.
So now his work is sort of being rediscovered. There's a group there called the Center for Research and Dialogue, which is promoting a lot of Somali artists, including Afi. And his work it's amazing. It's really, it's very political, it's very topical, it's also very funny.
Yeah, I guess as Afi said, they don't have any natural disasters. They only have they don't have any tornadoes or tsunamis. Just all of their problems, I guess, really have been political, as he said.
Exactly. I really loved that line from him. Yeah, and that's a lot, and the artwork reflects that too. There's pictures of politicians and a lot of war, and people, really finally getting a chance to talk about it.
And finally, I just like to ask you this, and I think I asked you this before the last time, but your feelings being in a country like that when it is such a dangerous place to be.
Well, that's the thing. You take a lot of security precautions when you go. When I travel there, If I go out on the street to report, I usually have a security team with me, which is 10 or 12 guys who are armed, who will follow you around. And if you go out on the street to interview people, they'll set up kind of a ring around you to just make sure you don't get attacked. You don't stay very long in many places. Of course, that also changes the way people perceive you. So it's not the easiest place to work, when you have armed guys around you.
And again, Gabe Joselow is VOA's East Africa correspondent, and he has, of course, made a number of reporting trips to Somalia.